Welcome back to Her Workplace Unfiltered. I'm really excited to be here again today for a solo episode. I want to share with you what it's really been like building a startup from the ground up. I launched Her Workplace almost 2 years ago in October of 2023. And even though the journey has been so exhilarating and exciting, and there have been so many incredible wins along the way in the work that we're doing to help women grow and develop and accelerate in their careers, there have also been pivots and challenges and experiences that have both rocked me personally and professionally, but have allowed for me to grow into an impactful leader that, again, is so tied to this mission of building a better workplace for women. So, in this episode today, I'm going to share with you the behind the scenes journey of how Her Workplace got started, taking you back to 2 years ago when I decided to launch this platform and powerful network. And I will share with you more details about what it's been like along the way, what those wins have been, what the challenges have been, the business pivot that we made a year ago. So if you are looking to build a company, or you're in the midst of building a company, or you're just interested in learning more from someone who is stepping into and building a career as a leader, this is a great opportunity to join me today. So I want to go back to the first solo episode that I did of what my journey in life so far has been like, both personally and professionally. To start off, I spent over 15 years in corporate, was an advancing woman leader working for a Fortune 100 company in the commercial real estate industry. I had the MBA, I had the title, I was, again, advancing into more of a leadership position within my industry. And though there were so many opportunities for me ahead in becoming eventually, and hopefully at the time, a C-level leader, I did find that there was a lack of mentorship, sponsorship, opportunities for me to build my network, career development resources that were for women like me, for women that were entry to mid-level, ambitious women who are advancing in their careers and in really need of those types of resources to get to that next level. I struggled to find these resources both inside of my organization and outside of my organization. So I did what any ambitious woman would do and decided to leave corporate and build it on my own. And so it took a lot of courage to come to this place. It actually took me 2 years to leave corporate. I needed that time to not only do the market research, talk to my friends, talk to my peers about what they felt like they were missing in their development and support, but I also needed that time to build the confidence and the courage to leave and become an entrepreneur. And I was really lucky during that period to have a mentor who was also building his own business on the side. We were in an industry that you technically were a 1099 contractor. So you did have the opportunity to build something else that maybe you were passionate about. And he actually started a brewery and was in the midst of his first year of building that business. So he was the one that really taught me about hiring a team, finding the right people, how to start an LLC, what legal documents do you need, how to run a financial pro forma for being an entrepreneur and running a business. So it was really his guidance and mentorship that not only gave me the insights and the resources to know what to do and how to get started, but he also helped me build the confidence and courage to go and do it. And unfortunately, I was in a position where, again, I was in a high stakes environment. I was getting put on more deal opportunities. I was bringing in business. I was really at the service of our clients that I didn't have the opportunity to build something like this that is just so big and impactful on the side, outside of the company that I was working with, outside of my corporate career. So I did have to leave to start her workplace. So I made the leap. I resigned on December 31st of 2022. And I spent a few months really digging into, okay, what is this? Who's the customer? Is this a need? What's the business plan? How am I going to make money? What are the next steps in getting started? And during that period, I actually got Pilates certified because I just needed a routine. I needed somewhere that I needed to be and go to every day. And so that gave me that creative outlet to step away from being a working woman and really take up space in allowing myself to be curious. So I spent a few months getting Pilates certified. I also had the opportunity presented to me to join a startup doing real estate for a growing Series A company. And again, I was in a place of confusion. I didn't feel 100% ready yet. I didn't feel like I had the confidence to make that full leap. I also was still so unsure about how to even build a startup. And so I ended up taking that opportunity. So for the first few months, let's say 6 months of 2023, I had gotten Pilates certified. I had really taken up space for myself to dig further into, okay, what is her workplace? And then I went and joined a startup full time. And though I was only with the startup for a couple of months, it was meant to be. It was an eye-opening experience. It was led by a woman, an incredible growing company. I actually got to see internally how startups operate. And it gave me that knowledge of those little things of like, what is Notion? Do I need to set up a Notion for my team to manage projects one day? Do I need to host team meetings every week? Like, how do I run those team meetings? What do they look like? How do I put together KPIs and track those with a team that I have? So it gave me all of those little nuggets that I needed to feel more comfortable. And it also allowed for me to shadow a female founder who, too, helped me to build that confidence of, wow, okay, she's doing it. So I know I can do it too. And she was the one that really encouraged me actually to go out and take the leap and build her workplace. So at this time, when I'm about to leave the startup, this is before I ended up resigning, I was presented an opportunity through my network to host a series of events for her workplace in New York City at a space that used to be a co-working space for women. It was previously held by a company called The Wing, if you're familiar, that had gone out of business during the pandemic. So this space was just sitting empty. It was beautiful. It was furnished. And a contact of mine knew that I was building this community for women and reached out and said, look, we have this incredible space. Would you want to host a series of events here? So that was my sign to go and do it. And side note, I was planning a wedding all when this was happening. So this is the summer of 2023. My wedding was in September. Luckily, I had an incredible wedding planner, my best friend. So she had pretty much put everything together for me. But still, it was just a very stressful time, both personally and professionally. So I leave the startup and I say, okay, it's summer in New York City. What happens during the summer in New York? Everyone leaves. And so I said to myself, now's not the right time to officially launch and start a company. Why don't I host a series of pop-up events to collect market research, to understand the pain points, and really see if this thing has legs? So that's what I did. I hosted a series of 7 events in June and July in New York at this beautiful space. And they were everything from networking mixers to panel discussions with women leaders that I really admired. And I brought together over 250 women over those 7 days. And alongside of the events, because this space used to be a co-working space, and I've had experience in commercial real estate, and one of my former clients, side note, was Convene. So I had a lot of experience in this space of co-working. I also hosted co-working days. So that gave me the opportunity to generate some revenue. People could purchase a day pass, come work in the space, and then join us for an event in the evening. And it was a huge success. Brought together over 250 women. It really, again, gave me that opportunity to gather research, to talk to potential customers, to see where the market gap was. And it also gave me a launch pad because suddenly other competitors in the market, women that were working with startups or supporting startups, started reaching out to me. And I started to get some press of, okay, who is this woman who's taken over this space of a former company that used to be really big and impactful? And what is she doing with it? So what happened was after the 7th day, the 7th co-working day and event, the landlord of the building came back to me and said, look, it's incredible what you've done. Like, you've brought 250 plus people through our doors during this time out of the pandemic when buildings had been pretty much sitting vacant. And he said, why don't you take the space every day? And that was another sign of like, okay, I've built up the momentum. There's something real here. I should launch and I should try this. So I took August off. I took the beginning of September off because I got married. 2 weeks after my wedding, I launched her workplace. And what it was a co-working community for women. So women would purchase a membership. They could get access to the space all day to work, to meet, to network. And I started to build up the community. So started hosting events, virtual events as well, built a Slack community, all the things that you need to get people engaged and build a community. I was building that. It was incredible. I also learned a lot about leadership of, during that time, I couldn't be at the space every single day. I couldn't work every single event that we were doing because it just all happened so fast and I had to throw it all together on my own. And I needed to spend the majority of my days building up the customer base and building that momentum, getting the events planned. So I hired some part-time people to help support the front desk, to help support the events. But even having that support system and building a team, I learned a lot about leadership. That as a leader, it is so important that you know the ins and outs of every single role. I was staying late at night to wash the dishes. I was moving furniture. There were times when I was working the front desk. There were times, and still to this day, where I'm answering customer service emails. I think it's so important for leaders to not lead with their ego and learn the ins and outs of every single role that's part of their business, because it gives them the opportunity to step in the shoes of their employees and their future employees and really understand what that role entails. So that experience taught me a lot about the leader I want to be and how it was okay that I was the founder of this company and I was washing people's dishes. That's a great thing. So here I am 6 months later, and we had built up a network of over 250 plus women paying customers. I started renting out the space for events. We were doing partnerships. Things were really moving along. And I also, too, had built a business model that worked for co-working because of my experience in commercial real estate. So I knew how to do this right. Not signing traditional leases, doing these creative deal structures, which I had in place with this landlord. I was paying $8,000 a month for $60,000 worth commercial space. And it was because of my background. And that too was a defining moment for me throughout that 6-month trajectory of building the beginning of this business. When I left corporate, I felt so much shame about leaving this industry that I had put my blood, sweat, and tears into and walking away with not much out of it. Not the pay raise, not the future commissions, not the future titles and leadership trajectory. And that was really hard for me to set aside that fear and to set aside what felt like a failure. But when I negotiated this deal with the landlord, I knew, okay, wow, Marilynn, you were meant to go through that experience of being this woman in a corporate environment, in a male-dominated industry, all of this experience working with startups and other co-working operators so that you could see how this type of business works and how to do it better, especially financially. So I had negotiated this incredible deal. I started talking to investors. I had a VC fund that we were going down the road with, about to sign a deal and get funding to really launch this thing and expand across the country. Side note, we also did a pop-up in San Francisco and took over the former wing space there for a series of events. So things were really starting to build up. But there was a problem. I found that the majority of our members were there for the programming, for the networking, for the career development, for the speaker series, the events. And the rest of the members, so about 25%, they were there just for the space. They didn't attend an event. They didn't engage virtually or in person. Other members didn't know them. They just came into the space, worked in the space, and left. And the problem was that we were a co-working community, but the majority of our customers needed networking, mentorship, and career support. So we have this physical space that's not aligning with the majority of the customer's needs. At the same time, going back to why I started her workplace, of me, myself, being an ambitious woman in corporate, needing access to resources, to mentorship, to career development opportunities so that I could get to the next level in my career. None of that has to do with a physical co-working space. So after 6 months, the landlord started to pressure me into signing a long-term deal. We were trying to get funding. We had found this bottleneck with our customer base. I also found that out of 250 plus women in New York City that were our members, on average, only 13 women were showing up to the space every day. So the numbers, they weren't there. And I didn't feel comfortable even with this strategic commercial real estate deal I was going to do with the landlord, to where they were basically going to be an investor in my business and take a net profit every month rather than a rent check. So it was a great financial business model, but I didn't feel comfortable with the business model that we had in place and how that aligned with the real estate piece. So what I did was I went back to the mission, the values, and the vision of the company. None of it had to do with a physical space. Again, it had to do with elevating, supporting, connecting women in the workplace so that they could go out into the world and build a better workplace for women, and us being the driver of that. And I said to myself, we need to pivot. We need to move out of the space and we need to go build a tech platform that will do this, that will help women build their network, get access to the people, the resources, and the opportunities that will accelerate their career growth. And what better way to do it than to build the technology that will make it easier for women to get access to these resources. So we took the physical space component and the in-person events and programming. We pulled them out of the core business and we put them on the tertiary. So this is last summer. So this is June of 2024 when all of this is going down. At one point, I thought we were going to have to shut down because I just felt so defeated and I felt like this was such a failure. And what are we going to do about those 25% plus members that are here just for the space? So went back to my real estate contacts. I called around everyone I knew that had co-working space in New York City and other major markets. And I said, look, I'm building this company. We still need access to physical spaces. We have this incredible network of women that we've built. And at this point, too, we had over 15,000 email subscribers. So we had a pretty big following. And I said, what if I give you access to them and you give me access to spaces? So that's what we did. Moved out of the space in New York. We signed a deal with a company called Tishman Speyer that has beautiful workspaces all across the country. And our members can go there to meet, to work, to network as kind of that place and perk to their membership. Again, no longer the core offering, but more of like, oh, and you get this as a member of her workplace. So we did that. We pivoted, signed the deal. And then what happened was we said, wow, Tishman has spaces all across the country. What if we start doing in-person events and programming across several cities? So we started launching in different cities across the US. And launching meaning, hey, we're coming to Boston. We're building this network. We're bringing to you access to these beautiful spaces. And we're going to start doing in-person events here. Because of that pivot, we tripled our membership and tripled our revenue. It was incredible momentum. And what felt like at first such a failure and scary and the unknown, it ended up being the launch pad of where we are today. So back to me getting married. I got married, beautiful wedding. And right after, in January of 24, I found out I was pregnant. I was like, oh my God, how am I physically going to like run this, in-person focused community while being pregnant? And so imagine what it was like when we went through the business pivot. I think at that point I was like 6 months pregnant. I was like, okay, we're going through this big pivot. How am I going to have a baby when things feel turbulent? Luckily, I had an amazing team that was there to kind of just help support and step in, and had really focused on bringing on the right people to do that. And I had my baby in September. So a year basically today. So all of that was happening at the same time of this like business pivot. But by that point, when I had my daughter, we had started to grow across the country. We tripled our membership, we tripled our revenue. And I was really lucky in that I had my daughter and I bounced back pretty fast. And luckily, too, my daughter slept through the night within the first like few days. And we, as a family, have like a great support system. And so everything kind of just worked out, which I know is not the same for other women. It's really challenging to be a working mom and juggle everything that you're doing. But I just was really lucky that I was able to continue to work, and unfortunately didn't give myself a maternity leave, which I'm kind of paying for now, of just starting to hit a little bit of burnout because I didn't take that break, which I think it is essential for women to take time off. I just didn't have the luxury at that time to do it. And physically, mentally, and emotionally, I was in a place where I could jump back in. So I was getting on a plane to Chicago and Boston in October, right after having my daughter, which sounds crazy. But after I had her, I just had this like burst of adrenaline and became even more tied to this mission of wanting to support women in the workplace and to build a better future for women in the workplace. So all of that was happening at the same time, which was crazy and such a wild experience. So flash forward, here we are about a year later from the pivot. And I will say it has been one of the most challenging years of my life. Not only because I've dealt with so many changes personally. I moved, we got a puppy, I had a baby. There's just been so much change personally for me in this past year. But there's also been so much change for this business that I've been building. And the pivot is still pivoting. The business is still going through the pivot of, we're still facing challenges of rebranding ourselves, ensuring people know who we are now, what we are, what we're building. I still to this day get emails of, hey, we need a co-working space, or I need to book an event. I heard that you have a space in New York. And it's been really hard to go through that and come to terms that when you pivot a company, it takes time to ensure that the market is aware of who you are now and what your offering is. And by the way, pivoting is very normal for startups. Startups pivot all the time. There's big brands and companies out there now that started as very different companies in the beginning. I've had to learn that it's part of the journey and that it's okay if you decide to go in a direction one week and then make an adjustment the next week. I mean, people say this all the time. It's all about moving fast and breaking things and just trying to get to what the product market fit is. And I will say where we are now. So the past year, again, has been challenging. I've had to build a team. I've had to let go of people. I've had to build back up a team again. Our financials have been challenging in that some months we're slightly growing, other months we grow a lot, and then we pull back just slightly. So it's just been a very challenging time of just going through the motions of figuring out what is that thing that's going to stick. So here's where we are today. We figured it out. Who we are today is we are a career development platform for ambitious women who are in the entry to mid-level stages of their careers. We've built a tech platform that is now a custom-built platform. It's the second MVP. And that was another piece too of product development that I don't have a background in tech. I've never built a tech platform or company before. And so from the very beginning, even when we were a co-working space, the technology has always been front of mind of how can we make this network easier to use for women. And that was a pain point I had with other networks of me joining a career resources platform or network or women's community and feeling lost immediately. And so that's what we're doing with technology is it's all about making it easier for the user. How can I easily get connected to, again, the right people, the resources, the things that are going to propel me forward? So we're in the second phase of product development and continuing to enhance the platform that we have now. And what we do is our members get access to this AI-powered tech platform that, again, connects them to peers, to mentors with C-level executives, to career coaching. We now have coaching on our platform, to in-person and virtual workshops, programs, events, experiences, all of these things that align with what our members' goals and needs are. So that's who we are today. Again, the in-person sits on the tertiary. We still do a lot of in-person events and workshops and programs, but it no longer is the core of the business. And I would say that we are a tech-forward platform that, again, is changing the future of work for women. And it's our goal to get more women promoted, to get more women into leadership roles, into managerial positions, and to overall encourage and support women throughout their career advancement and development. So I hope that this was insightful and gives you more of the backstory of why I started her workplace, what her workplace has been through, and where we're going. It's really exciting to be part of this impactful company and network and be leading the charge in changing the future of work. So I'm excited to continue to share more with you throughout the journey of building and growing this podcast. And I want to also end with one piece of advice that I would say carried me through this past year. And it's that in moments of feeling uncomfortable, that's when the real growth happens. And this year, I've been so uncomfortable in so many different ways, personally, professionally, as a leader. But every single time I get that feeling of fear or not wanting to do something because I'm afraid, or, feeling like I'm not ready to move forward with this because of X, I go back to that lesson of during those moments, just know that you're going to come out the other side, and this experience is only going to serve you. So I hope that helps you with your career and your journey. And again, I'm excited to share more with you. Thank you.